Hello, and welcome to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by Cazoo, with Philip Nothard and Curtis Hutchinson, bringing you all the chatter that matters across the car retailing sector, from factory to forecourt.
Hello and welcome to this special bonus episode of Motor Trade Radio. Today we're delighted to welcome back to the pod Robert Forrester, CEO of Vertu Motors. Robert's joining us to discuss the latest developments with the ZEV Mandate. Now, Robert's consistently spoken out about the way the ZEV Mandate was introduced and subsequently enforced, citing the damage it is doing to the automotive retailing and manufacturing sectors. So, following a week of speculation, last Friday, Andy Burnham's new administration confirmed it had brought forward the review of the ZEV Mandate, which was expected next year, and it has started a consultation process on whether to soften targets for EV sales, an acknowledgement that the government's targets are not being achieved. Now, the consultation will include car makers, suppliers, retailers, charging companies, and other key stakeholders. Now, without going into the minutiae, it's a fairly complex five-stage process involving central and devolved governments with a deadline of the 23rd of October. So the clock is very much ticking. Welcome back, Robert, and thanks for joining us for the ZEV Mandate update.
Always a pleasure. And one day I'd like to come on here and not talk about the ZEV.
Yeah, talk about ZEV Mandate and EVs in general. Maybe one day. To be fair, Robert, there'll be something else. There'll be something else that we're repeating on a regular basis. We've seen it. You never know. Dieselgate might return one day, and we'll. But yeah, no. I mean, welcome back, and thought it was an apt time, particularly after that announcement that sort of appeared the other weekend quite quietly. I think it was brought by the Sunday Times, and sort of not a lot of the sector picked up on it at the time. But I know it was something that has been obviously close to you. So I think to begin with, let's start with some context on how the ZEV Mandate is currently impacting the car and van retailing sector, and yourself, Robert, as the CEO of one of the UK's largest franchise dealer groups. I mean, what impact is the ZEV Mandate having on your business?
Well, you'd have to live on the moon not to understand the impact of the state intervention in completely upending the normal rules of capitalism, where supply and demand dictate how much is produced and how much is sold and the price at which it is sold at. And it works very, very well. Adam Smith was not incorrect. What we've actually ended up with is, unfortunately, a complete lack of understanding of basic economics by the government, aided and abetted by quite ideological lobby groups, particularly around EV charging, actually, that imposed on the UK sector. But in fairness, there were not dissimilar arrangements in America and Europe at one time, which says you have to sell more electric vehicles or you have massive fines. And the impact of that on normal demand and supply curves, as anybody who studied economics will say, it causes massive dislocation. In the case of the UK market, which had the most vicious targets and the most vicious fines, it therefore had the most vicious impacts. And the upshot is that everyone's had to sell electric vehicles at massive discounts to try and create demand to get close to the targets, or be faced by £15,000 or £12,000 a vehicle fine, depending on cars and vans. And actually, cars were £15,000 at one point. And the upshot is everyone has had to discount massively, and the profit pool for the automotive sector, from parts all the way through to retail, has been significantly eroded. And that has an impact on jobs, viability, investment, and the UK automotive sector has not turned up in terms of driving economic growth in the UK, as have many other sectors not turned up for not unknown reasons. Government policy has been delusional, and this consultation is a good acknowledgement of that. I don't think it's the end of the story. I think this is an ongoing thing we've got to do. but the sector would have faced catastrophic scenarios had something not been done. Now, nothing's been done apart from a consultation, but the direction of travel is broadly clear, and it's to be welcomed.
And I mean, obviously, we've had the electric car grant, which, look at quite a significant amount of money from the Treasury to support the growth.
Oh, not me. No, not the money that was put on the table was a drop in the ocean compared to the level of discounting reported by the S&P. I mean, let's talk factly. Yes, we're not in the billions. So the manufacturers have written off each year broadly $5 billion on discounted electric vehicles to try and stimulate demand. They've invested billions in the R&D and the investment in plant, which, let's be honest, most of the major European manufacturers have now written off to zero, from what I can see. Massive write-downs. And this is economic madness.
And I mean, just something on as a side on this. I mean, obviously, Kevin Moon entered the gay government, and we know Perrin obviously from across the automotive sector, and there was a sort of bit of hope that Perrin would enter as a backbencher to give some context around the automotive sector. But I mean, recently, he's been quite challenging of some of those challenges, both from yourself and Mike Hawes more recently from the SMMT, hasn't he, in terms of trying to look at it pragmatically and the shift to electrification and how much damage it.
Well, I'm not even so the word pragmatic. I mean, it's actually looking at it with the facts. And I mean, I was quite vociferous with Perrin on LinkedIn, as you know. His background is electric vehicle charging. Frankly, the only people in the country who are vociferously against moving on the ZEV mandate are people connected with electric vehicle charging. Now, what amazes me is if we had no manufacturers and we had no retailers, because they'd all been put out of business because no one can make a profit, there is no electric vehicle charging going on. And it seems to me insane that we're even having this debate. The sector should work together, but when you've got a business model like electric vehicle charging companies, which is further what I said on LinkedIn, which is predicated on government mandating a technology and, let's be honest, massively subsidizing that sector, then it creates very entrenched positions because they have to keep that wheel of subsidy and government intervention going, or their business model and their growth prospects and their investment plans don't come to fruition. Now, I could say a lot about that, but that is true.
And Robert, what would you, as a key industry stakeholder, like the government to change to make the ZEV mandate more realistic for new car and van EV sales? Because I'm assuming you will be involved in the consultation process in some shape or form.
Well, I've written down on a book here was to get involved in ZEV mandate consultation. Clearly, we will also be working with the SMMT, working with the NFBA, working with the Open Road Alliance, and other interested bodies on making sure there's one voice. What we need and what we'll get will be two different things. I think there will have to be some political pragmatism.
Yeah.
And what I would like is a complete reduction in state intervention in the UK economy, because we haven't got the balance right. What we'll get is something very different, which is still state intervention, but at a less destructive level, I suspect. So if I was being pragmatic, we need targets to be significantly moderated, to more align with natural market demand, to allow the automotive sector to make profits as well as driving on the electrification. What's wrong with electrification? It's the pace that we've got a problem with, in order that we can protect jobs, keep going on investment, and contribute to the UK economy. The opposite is we continue with these high targets and we will not have a UK automotive sector, or a very depleted one. Because what is the point of being an industry where there is no or limited profit? So I think we need to clearly work together as an industry with an ask, and the ask, I think, should be moderate the targets, more closely align with the European Union, set 2035 of the date. Whether it gets to 2035 or it gets moved again, I think is an interesting debate. But at the moment, let's be pragmatic and go for 2035. There was talk around a 50% task by 2030. to be honest, we're in 2027 in a few months' time. It still sounds very tasky for me and broadly unachievable. But maybe this has to be done in bite-sized chunks. Certainly 50% is better than 80%. And next year's targets are that, starting with, I don't think it starts with a 4 at some point, does it? I'm as worried about vans. I'm slightly worried that vans will get left behind. The van market is not moving anywhere near the target, I think, at 9% or something versus 24%. So it is important that the government recognises that. Now, clearly they do. That's why they've gone for consultation. I don't think this is purely about just the business wing. I think parties like the trade unionists have been very helpful in recognising with the government that this is a problem. They clearly don't want to see the jobs go, which is what's going to happen. So they've been vociferous. So why have we got consultation? And I don't think necessarily it's due to the work of business. I think, the fact that Lee and Byrne came out, the fact that the Unite Union were very vocal, I think has clearly been very helpful.
And Robert, just to follow up on that, you mentioned 2035. So ideally, you would like to see the ICE ban move from 2030 to 2030.
I would use your words carefully, Curtis. Ideally, I'd like the government to get out of the way and not interfere in key industrial markets, actually. But with my more pragmatic head on, that's a start, isn't it? 2035 and sort of gradually get there. As the technology gets better, as economies of scale come through, the market will shift. And I've said many times, in 15 years' time, we'll all be in electric vehicles.
And where do you, obviously, if the flip-flopping of 2030 to 35, back again 2030, back to 2035, but that to one side is a key point. But where do you see this in terms of because the reports at the minute is saying that the pure petrol and diesel ban is immovable. That's probably questionable in many ways, but obviously the focus seems to be on the plug-in hybrids and the hybrid marketplace. Where do you feel
my philosophical starting point is, what is the government doing even on this page? Why should the government really be setting targets on which the taxpayer and the consumer in the UK cannot buy a certain powertrain? That's my opening standpoint. The British public are quite capable of understanding about carbon dioxide and the environment, and quite capable of making economic decisions rationally. They do not need the government to tell them what to buy. My overriding worry in the past 10 years has been that this whole debate is aggressively taken to by the civil service and the government, and I'm talking both parties, because the Tories were well on this pitch, because actually they don't like the private motor. And I think the industry has been woeful in explaining both the economic and the personal individual freedom benefits of private motor cars. Increasingly, we're seeing some nonsensical things going on, like Inox, which is well worthy of debate, where the private motor car is basically under attack. And we'll see a number of cities going down that route. So I think it's part of a wider debate. But coming back to the ZEV mandate, we need less government intervention. We need the industry to be given a breathing space. Every company has invested in electric vehicles. The question is, can they make money selling them? And why shouldn't they make money? Haven't they invested capital?
And not connected with this, there's a lot of discussion at the minute around the EVED, the pence per mile, pure EVs and for plug-in hybrids. And, that's currently coming into effect April 28th. Now, there's a lot of, obviously, we've had the latest from the consultation, which is obviously, that the vehicle doesn't need to be monitored until it's 3 years old, but it's left to the driver or the asset holder to input the mileage. This again, alongside the ZEV mandate, is where there's a policy being introduced without actually thinking through the impact.
It's
the impact of
energy. Honestly, this is comedy. It's like watching reruns of Yes, Prime Minister. Let's get back to fundamentals. Is there a problem? Yes. What is the problem? Fuel duty isn't going to keep going at the same rate due to electrification. Does everybody agree on that point? Yes. Does the government need to raise money? Of course. Why come up with a complete nonsensical self-declaration. Well, that's going to work well. Then you put in, more onerous on MOT stations, including franchise MOT stations, to do something else, when, let's be honest, there's a cap on what we can charge. And I think if we're going to do something else, we should be paid for it. But why bother? Why not just put an annual levy on electric vehicles, flat fee, maybe based on size of car or something, that's simple, payable once, can't be avoided, to plug the duty gap? I mean, I don't know why this wasn't done. What they've come up with is an absolute nonsensical mess. And I think part of it stems from the people in power. Most of them don't have cars and don't drive. Actually, when I meet civil servants, they all live in London, they all jump on the tube, they have no clue what cars.
And as you say, in terms of the reliance on, and without going down this is rabbit warren, but the DVLA to their processes and capabilities to manage this, again, it's not feasible. I mean,
it needs to, in my opinion, it needs to be, go back to simplicity. And I did study taxation once at my exams. It needs to be simple. And a tax on a car based on size, like road fund tax every year, just add on to it and have to waive it. Wouldn't even be a debate. Wouldn't be a debate.
And Robert, Mike Hawes, the CEO of the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, naturally welcomed the consultation and it being brought forward because he's been campaigning against it.
He has done a phenomenal job, that man. I have to say, he deserves a knighthood and he'll probably get it. He has done an excellent job. Totally. What have been his utterances, for sure.
I totally agree with you. He's really raised the issue, raised the profile and raised the industry's oil. On Friday, he called for what he described as meaningful change, not marginal adjustment. So how hopeful are you? Because you've had dealings over the years with successive governments.
Yeah.
How hopeful are you that meaningful change?
I am very, very hopeful. I am exceedingly optimistic. And it's because there are people within the Parliamentary Labour Party and the wider Labour movement who fully understand the problem. Now, we might get to a position whereby we have short-term relief, but long-term objectives are still in place, in which case this will be an ongoing effect every couple of years where we have to get the things changed. But the Unite Union and people like Liam Byrne are very, very good, and there are people in government who fully understand the need for change. So this will happen.
And I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, like you say, I think nobody disagrees with the long-term aim and the result, but actually it's how we are.
Yeah, it's just ironic that why the government think they need to do it. The long-term result is we'll have electrified cars. The market will deliver that. Yeah. And to be brutally honest, whether we go now, 2030 or 2035 or 2040, will not make the blindest bit of difference to global CO2.
No, I mean, that's the disconnect, isn't it? Alongside all this is the net zero and the global CO2, where the impact of that. But actually, this isn't moving in that same direction of conversation, is it?
No. So I'm quite optimistic. I think the industry has actually done a pretty good job at lobbying. I think the government, in fairness to them, have listened. It's early days for the Burnham government, but good sign. And let's just get the concept out of the way. It's good news because it'll be done before the manufacturers finalise their plans for 2027, which was, I think, critical. So let's crack on with the consultation. Let's assume that the government have right intentions, which I actually think they do. And let's get this industry back to creating jobs, employing young people, paying tax, growing.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Well, coming a little bit more to today, and I think we were chatting briefly before we started to record, but it's 5 years since you were the undercover boss, which I caught a glimpse of the other day, isn't it? I think that was
fantastic. 5 years last week.
5 years. Can't believe 5 years.
We visited 20% of the group in the last 2.5 weeks at the Wigan office, actually.
I can imagine you have, yeah. If I was on for when you were, sorry. If when you popped to Burnley for your new sponsorship, that would be when
I was there yesterday.
Yes, fantastic. I mean, we're mid-August now. The year 2026 is obviously seemingly past that half-year point now. We're heading towards September. Crucial time of the year for everybody within the second plate. Positive indications from the night in terms of an order bank for that plate change. What's it look?
I think it's difficult to say that it's too early. Actually, the order bank builds from this point on.
Yeah.
From mid-August onwards, I'm not convinced that it's from now on that the action. We started our new car event. You might have seen the TV ads last Thursday. Big event this weekend. Another big event next weekend. But you know what it's like. The days of massive order banks going into a plate change month, early August, and we're very much more transactional than that. So, you can't comment on September at this point. Having said that, the market's been up, which is good. New car market's growing. I think the manufacturers have got more focus on retail than fleet, which is good news for retailers. So I think there's a lot to play for. We're certainly putting our best foot forward in terms of marketing. We're at it. And I think we've got a lot to be hopeful for, but you can't declare victory mid-August.
You've had some events as well, haven't you? Have you had a new car?
I know we've got a full TV schedule at the moment with new cars. We started last Thursday. We had a good weekend. So, we've just got to deliver it really. And I'm pleased this year with how the dealerships have performed. We actually had a profits upgrade last month, or June actually, which is, fairly unheard of in the experience of the ZEV Mandate the last couple of years. So I think, we can be optimistic. The fact that we came to the rescue of Burnley and are now front shirt sponsor for them, was a quite an aggressive move from us, if I'm honest. Clearly, it was a distressed situation with regards to the club because we had a week to go and no sponsor. But, it's those sort of things that go down very well within the colleague base, seeing the company on the front foot, seeing them on the television. It creates confidence, which I think is important. And it creates confidence for customers when they see, you turn on the television, yesterday, fully televised match, 18 minutes of LED advertising the new car event. Next weekend, we're at Donington Park with the British Touring Car, 35,000 people there, dominated by Vertu. So we are attacking and putting our best foot forward, that's for sure.
Yeah, and definitely in your local market, your customer base and everything else. So are you, obviously, at this point now, you're not going to say otherwise, knowing you so well for so many years, but 2026, you've upgraded your profit outlook.
Yeah, I'm optimistic, actually. I'm optimistic for the rest of this year. I think the business, having two managing directors has been a benefit for the business. We are operationally quite tight. 20% of the dealerships in the last 2.5, 3 weeks. It means I've got around, I've got a good feel for what's going on. I think we're in good form and I think we're enjoying it, which is good. The fact the ZEV Mandate looks like it's being consulted on also gives everybody a boost. We're very stable. We've had the 3 same executive directors for 2 decades. And in November, we look forward to our 20th birthday as a business. And we founded the group in November 2006. So plenty to look forward to. We are very much at it in terms of selling, and we are a selling business at the end of the day. And lots of long-term things going on, lots of investment in degree apprentices. We're developing a new graduate program for intake into our large fleet businesses. Lots of things to get excited about.
Well, 20 years, Robert. I remember writing about this fledgling new group that was launched, and can't believe that's 2 decades ago now.
No, I don't think my wife believes it either.
Did you give her an indication that it was over 20 years and you'll still be hard at it?
I'm not sure I told her, but no, it's been, let's be honest, we've enjoyed it, haven't we? It's had its ups and downs. We've had global financial crises, we've had COVID, we've had Dieselgate, we've had ZEV Mandate, but that adds all to the fun of the job, doesn't it? And, we've built a nice business. It's not completely where it needs to be, but it's in good form. We can, really work hard over the next few months to make it even better and deliver a good result this year.
To a degree, when you put everything, what you've done, where you are, size of the business, you sort of say it's only 20 years. 20 years seems a long time, but it's not. There's dealerships and groups that have been going a lot longer. So 20 years to get to this scale. And what have we got now? 7,500 employees.
Yeah. And we've got 200 outlets really. But I don't really look at it like that.
No.
I think, there's lots to do. The Chinese changes, which Chinese brands, how many outlets do we have for each? That is a massive transformation. That is really soaking up a lot of time. And it needs to be done clearly. So that's a big task. The AI revolution, and I use that word advisedly, but I honestly believe it's a revolution. I am going at 3:00 to a business in Newcastle, actually a marketing agency, who've done a lot of work in AI, and I want to see it. I'm spending a lot of time going to businesses that have got good AI. Now, we think we've got good AI, and we have, but you've got to learn from other businesses, and it's not an area I was ever trained in. So, we've got to learn about AI. I think AI is absolutely transformational. Everything I see tells me this is not business as usual in terms of AI. And I know it sounds like a buzzword, and I hope people don't think I'm using a buzzword, but honestly believe this is going to be quite important. But I did a talk this morning for 3 hours to 40 new managers. And I said, the good news is, actually, if you were leaving school today, dealership general management, sales executives, service advisors, technicians, very hard to see how you AI those jobs out. Actually, it's quite a good bet. Whereas I could name umpteen job roles, which would be under massive pressure from AI going forward. Not least, massive pressure. I won't name them because it'd be unfair. But I think dealerships are phenomenal businesses. Difficult markets, always. Not high margin, clearly. But if you were a youngster today and you were offered a degree apprentice with Vertu Motors, so you could be a manager in 4 years' time at the age of 24, 25, or even less, 22, that would be a good shout.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
I think that's what we've got to look at is the world is changing. 70% of people go to university, which I completely disagree with as it happens. But we've got to therefore look at what's our intake and how do we get graduates to come on. And graduates want graduate programs, so they don't exist. People can't find jobs.
No, I mean, on the AI, Curtis never knows whether he's talking to me or my AI cloud half the time. You've I mean, obviously I've been in the industry 37 plus years now, or whatever it is. And you just mentioned some of those challenges around AI and COVID and everything else that we've been through. And there's still more. There's still just exciting being into in terms of automotive in general. So I think anybody coming into this sector, there is a lot for them to get involved with, and
it's a phenomenal industry. I mean, I never wanted to go in the automotive sector. I never thought I'd be in it, but I wouldn't go anywhere else. And it is a wonderfully eclectic, exciting industry. And I think we should look at the positives, because some people knows about the motor trade, but actually it's given a lot of people a very good living, actually, for many years. And I think we'll continue to do so. And coming back to the ZEV Mandate, that's the problem with the ZEV Mandate. It has upended a very successful sector.
Exactly. And I rather suspect, Robert, that's not the last word on the ZEV Mandate from you. We'll have you back on at some stage for another update. But from Philip and I, many thanks for coming on to the podcast today. At short notice, really appreciate that, and thanks for spending time with us.
Absolute pleasure, anytime.
So many thanks, Robert. We're back with the headlines on Saturday morning. Until then, it's goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from him.
Thank you for listening to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by Cazoo.